Did you know that when correctly matched to a position that suits their talents, an autistic professional may be up to 140% more productive than a typical worker? These individuals bring valuable strengths to the workplace, including, but not limited to, understanding complex systems, independently focusing on tasks, reliability, and loyalty. However, prejudice towards those with neurodivergent traits still exists. That's because the majority of common workplace norms were developed with neurotypicality in mind. Here's the thing. When people ask me about how I became so passionate about special education and advocating for others, I've always credited my love and devotion to my little brother, who was born breech with cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, hydrocephalus, an enlarged heart, and is hemiplegic. What I tend to leave out is my own personal struggles and journey as an individual with Aspergers. This is not due to shame or embarrassment, but more of denial, maybe because I feel like I've overcome so many of the barriers to be able to mask most of the characteristics to fit into society. But mostly because it's so much easier to fight for something for someone else than to do so for oneself. In the workplace, I honestly believe that to be treated better, I had to work harder to fit in, adapt and please others, and often at the expense of my own well-being. I have a difficult time in large gatherings, hypersensitivity to sounds and smells, so socializing can be excruciating, and that's difficult because the educational world is full of large gatherings. Most people just chalk it up to me being antisocial, and I leave it to that. Then I would overhear in passing or by others how weird I am. Though gossip, in educational world, gossip spreads like wildfire. In a field where we are supposed to teach and model kindness to our students, we do a pretty terrible job as adults to each other. Just because I choose not to acknowledge or respond to the behind-the-back comments does not mean I don't know what's being said, even when you smile in my face the next day, or act like my best friend because you need me for something. Instead, I respond by working harder, staying up later, taking on more, and prioritizing the needs of others over my own. If I can show how valuable I am, maybe they'll like me more or be more kind. Wishful thinking, really. The more I tried to fit in and please people among credit stealing and cutthroat competition, the more I struggled. I began referring to myself in ableist terms, such as odd. Like many neurodivergent people, I was unable to find a true representation of me, and I worked in the field of education, special education. I was unable to express how I felt about my internalized exclusion. I was surrounded by people who didn't experience the world, feel, or think like I did. I felt alone. Pop culture narratives portray neurodivergent people as unemotional, robotic people and reduces us to stereotypes and othering us, which shapes how we are perceived by others and by ourselves. The truth is, I'm not a child, a math prodigy, or an emotionless robot. I'm a very self-reliant adult who values a sense of community and enjoys helping others. Through my years of advocacy and the work I try to do in the school system, I've come to understand that neurodiversity is not the problem. Rather, it is the miseducation surrounding what it means to be neurodivergent, especially in the workplace. We are here preparing students with special needs into a world we are already living in, fostering skills and knowledge for them to overcome barriers they will face. Yet here we are, absent-mindedly not recognizing how we are treating our own neurodivergent coworkers, regardless if they disclosed or not. That's their choice, but that does not negate us from being kind and considerate. Let's talk about the job application process. You know how each application process has a question asking whether you have a disability or not? Because companies can't discriminate against a disability. Well, here's a thought. The job application process in itself can be discriminatory. One of the numerous workplace norms that excludes neurodiversity is the personality-focused job application process, which is a barrier for many people who might be better at doing the job than talking about themselves. So many neurodivergent individuals will listen to sage advice and act as neurotypical as possible to land and/or keep a job. An unconscious tactic known as neurotypic passing, masking, or camouflaging is triggered by this pressure. This could be a neurodivergent individual pushing through the uncomfortableness of eye contact, going into a large function while unbearably suffering from the noise, or spending hours perfecting small talk skills for neurotypical hiring supervisors. This, like most fake things, is unsustainable and can lead to eventual burnout, illness, and job loss. We must work harder to build an inclusive workplace, especially if we are in the field of building inclusive classrooms for special needs children. Although it may co-occur with any of these, autism spectrum is not an intellectual, learning, or mental health disability. It is a challenging developmental condition that affects our ability to communicate, sense, and interact with others. For neurodivergent workers, belonging is just as important as adaptability. Everyone has a chance to succeed when organizations recognize our identities and encourage people to bring their genuine selves to work. For those in the field of special education like myself, spend some time to reflect on the practices and relationships you have with your coworkers. Remember that it's up to others to disclose information about themselves, but just like our students, trust and relationships take time, and we can help by being supportive and positive. Lead with an open heart for all individuals. I personally never outwardly disclosed my own diagnosis. I have told a few people, but none in a situation that would have probably liberated some of the pressures I felt while trying to do my job. I guess I felt like it shouldn't matter, my diagnosis, but what mattered was my productivity and work ethics. But time and time again, I put so much into what I do and end up burning out. I was recently asked during an interview at a place I was already working at how I'd respond to the claim that people described to me as cold. They really thought I was cold. I knew then that this was not going to work out. People work for different reasons, and these reasons can affect how we define our success. My goal has always been to give voice to those who were unable to. Traditional employment has been very difficult for me. I appreciate taking on the role of an entrepreneur within a company and being able to generate innovative new growth opportunities. But until I find the right company, I'm excited to venture out on my own for a bit and be my own boss. I'm not afraid to take some time to figure out what path feels right. I want to be able to develop myself in the area that can open up opportunities that work with my mind instead of being forced to optimize myself for money or titles. I'm being loyal to the person who very much needs my allyship, myself.